Hello and welcome to PropNex, the property podcast about all things related to the future of real estate. I'm delighted that you've joined me today. My name is Gavin Morgan, your host. If you'd like to know a little bit more about me, please check out www.propnex.com. That's propnx.com. Or drop me a line if you'd like to chat privately on gavinrmorgan@propnex.com. That's GAVINRMORGAN So Christophe Garnier, co-founder and chief executive officer of Upflex. Absolutely delighted to have you on PropNex today. Thank you very much for joining us.
A pleasure. Thank you for hosting me today, Gavin.
Oh, not a problem, Christophe. And Christophe, would you mind, just for the benefit of the listeners, could we kick off in your words with a little bit of an introduction to yourself, please?
Of course. Well, I'm initially from France. I've been in the US for 23 years now. I landed in San Francisco in 1999 after business school and spent 6 years in San Fran working for a couple of tech companies, very fast-growing tech companies, where I learned quite a bit before moving to New York in 2005 and started a few companies, and we're on company number 4 now with Upflex. And that's where I met with Ginger, my co-founder, and we created Upflex together. And about a year ago, I actually moved to San Diego, where I am talking to you from.
Fantastic. Yes, and I tell you, I'm sure there are many people that wish they were talking from San Diego in this weather, Christophe. I tell you, sitting in New York, it feels like a great decision. But Christophe, just at the beginning of when you and I were introduced to one another, which is a little bit earlier this year, I remember looking through your LinkedIn profile and doing a bit of research on you, and you've had a very interesting career, and you're clearly a very entrepreneurial person. And you also seem, certainly as far back as I could see, seem to have been at the front edge or very close to a lot of evolving spaces in real estate, you know, most notably things like Spark Labs, and of course now the direction that you're taking Upflex in. Could you share with us, I'd be curious to know why you pivoted to those spaces, and why you have such commitment behind initiatives like that in today's world.
Yeah, well, you know, it's I think it's somewhat kind of the culmination of various experiences I've had, throughout my journey, both in Silicon Valley and New York, where in Silicon Valley I've been working for B2B firms, and I was brought in as this young and motivated individual to create the US subsidiaries of European technology firms that were very focused, as I mentioned, on B2B. And I discovered, the potential firepower and scalability of a B2B software model, which is conducted properly phenomenal. So I've taken those experiences and moved to New York in 2005 and created a first B2B model and failed. I created that company. I was in the mobile technology space for 10 years, 6 years in San Francisco on those 2 technology firms I worked for. And then when I moved to New York, I created my first firm, which was a B2B content development firm for the mobile space. We were creating mobile content for ad agencies and taking creating content that was then distributed to their own audiences. And B2B is very difficult. B2B is very hard. And I experienced that firsthand when I was conducting this first business. And so after 3 years, I had to close down that business, and I created another business in the B2C world, and then I created a third business, which was that co-working business in New York City, and I was, after all those years, I was ready to finally create another B2B business that was capitalizing on everything I had learned back in San Francisco, in my own first B2B business, in the B2C business I had created, which we brought to $100 million in valuation. And then this co-working business we had created in New York I was seeking money for growing that co-working, and we were already too late in the market to raise money, because there was already the WeWorks and Industries and hotels of the world. And this is by thinking through how could we create a player in this industry without bearing all those liabilities, which was the big problem of those big companies.
Still a challenge today, yeah.
Still the challenge today, right? And so, and that's how we came up with the B2B Upflex idea, wanting to create a model that would be liabilities free, that would be surfing on the need for flexibility, that would be surfing on the fact that there is lots of inventory out there that was extremely, data-wise disorganized.
Yeah. And Christophe, sorry, go ahead, please.
And just creating a source of data.
Yeah. So, Christophe, listening to you explaining that experience and the, I guess some of the bumps on the road on the journey that you've had to now, and one of the things that really interested me about Upflex when I first looked at it was it's a clever, very clever asset light model. Seems to be a real need for it in the market. It's very obvious to see where the need comes from. But one thing that you've done as a CEO that I think is particularly admirable is it's clearly a technology organization, but you've patched in critical real estate expertise to help with the direction and deployment of your technology. That might seem like an obvious thing to you, but I've seen so many similar types of things that haven't taken the industry knowledge on board to help direct the technology development. And lots of good ideas fall and unfortunately flat on their face just because of that little glitch. So I'm assuming that somewhere along that journey you learned about the need for tapping the industry while you develop technology solutions. Is that correct? Was it might be a bit of a strange question, but it's not as obvious as it might seem in this world.
Yeah, no, you're right. And so to give you a little bit of history, what's interesting is that when we created Upflex, I was operating Spark Labs. I had a few locations in New York, co-working locations, that is. And as I said, we're trying to raise money. We couldn't. Too many players out there. We came up with that concept. And we actually came up with that concept by looking at a company that we really like called GymPass. And so GymPass is this aggregator of gyms, B2B, and that allows for employers to provide, this health and lifestyle benefit to their employees and pays for it, right? And we thought, what a great idea. What a great idea to provide that benefit to employees. And how about doing the same thing for co-working? And that's what we did. We basically created an employee benefit. We aggregated a couple of thousand workspaces across the US and in Europe to start. And we marketed that. And we started acquiring mostly forward-thinking companies that were, that were really interested in providing a better employee experience, right? Better flexibility and choice. But we were going after HR. We were an HR tech business. And this is only during the pandemic and because of the pandemic that we were transformed into a PropTech business. And we started talking to all those heads of real estate and those brokers, right? And we were transformed from an HR tech business selling to forward-thinking tech companies into a PropTech firm selling to mid-cap and enterprise via and leveraging the help of those brokers. And it became very clear that we didn't have any experience in that market, any experience. So it became crucial to bring that expertise into the team. And that's why we brought first Vincent Lottier, our Chief Strategy Officer, who really educated us on that industry and allowed us to understand the best way to harness that market by working again with the brokerage firms and understanding the models and all that. And now we have many people within the team that are either from the brokers or from co-working or from the landlord commercial real estate industry. So that's basically what happened.
Yeah, no, like that's fantastic, and I think it speaks a lot to the organization that you have today. The fact that you've done that, and you talked about the pandemic, and some critical pivots that Upflex made during the pandemic, and of course, we're now in a world of rapidly rising rates, and understandably, a lot of businesses and individuals are extremely concerned about the future. Again, for a business like Upflex, it seems to me that there's, if anything, maybe more opportunity rather than anything to be concerned about in the future because of the model and because of what it offers to the clients that it's trying to serve. I just wonder if you agree with that. And I mean, if you could speak a little bit to some of the biggest opportunities and challenges that you see in the coming years as we navigate sort of through what's happening in the markets at the moment.
Well, the obvious one when it comes to our market is the fact that the employers are trying to, on one hand, figure out what their workplace strategy should look like, since people have been working from home for almost 2 years during the pandemic, and trying to understand what is the right approach in order to provide the right employee experience to their teams, while adopting the most optimized, economically optimized solution, right? So on one end, there is this there is this dilemma, and we are trying to provide the tools. We don't have answer for it, but we have the tools in order to figure out that answer. And so we've been working very actively with many companies in trying to uncover what is going to be their approach to it. And it's quite honestly, it's very different from a company to another. There is no one recipe, because the composition of their companies and their location and their human capital is different. And so that's the big one of the big topic, I believe, which is an opportunity.
Yes, indeed. Yep.
And the second one is obviously the economic conditions that we're going to go through, which still don't know. I was having conversations with our existing investors last week, many investors this coming week, existing, potential ones, private equity. I mean, no one knows exactly what the world's going to look like, economically speaking, for the next 12 months. And so that's a factor we have to weigh and we have to manage. And that means, we have to manage it for ourselves. We have to manage it when it comes to our growth, our customers, and it's definitely something that is on our minds as CEOs and managers of businesses. So
yeah, the future for the office is is an asset that accommodates more of a hybrid way of working. I mean, historically, pre-pandemic, everyone 5 days a week in the main came to the office, worked in the office. There was a little bit of hybrid working, but not much. I think that the way things will settle once the dust firmly settles in a couple of years post-pandemic, we'll be in much more of a hybrid world where people, for argument's sake, come in plus or minus 3 days a week and either work from home or shared spaces for the rest of the week. And again, I think that Upflex is an organization that coincidentally supports that style of working in the future. And the question, Christophe, was I just wondered, is that something that's on your radar and in your thinking as you continue to develop the Upflex business moving forward?
I mean, absolutely, Gavin. We know one of the things we were discussing the other day on a panel. We don't believe in working from the office, and we don't believe in remote work either. We believe in hybrid. Working fully at the office is not something that we know now by interviewing many millions of people out there. No one wants to work from the office all day, every day anymore. It's over. And in the meantime, millions of people have been working from home for almost 2 years, and we know now that a majority of them, at least, don't want to do this full time either, right? It's not conducive to productivity. It's conducive to anxiety. There is a lot of issues to it on both aspects, right?
Yeah.
And so hybrid is this almost magical middle ground that allows to answer for many of the problems of both of those extremes, right? Yeah. And so we believe in it. We've created a technology that supports a hybrid, and we're going full speed in hopefully becoming one of the main providers of creating an hybrid workplace, creating the infrastructure, and creating the tools that are inherent, providing a fantastic hybrid experience to employees. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you. And Christophe, as we sort of move towards wrapping up, just a couple of pivot questions. So, what's the one thing that keeps you up at night?
Oh, well, what's the one thing that keeps me up at night?
And it cannot, I know you're an advocate of surfing, Christophe, so it can't be anything related to big waves.
That would allow me to escape from what keeps me up at night. But as an entrepreneur, what keeps me up at night is making sure that my team is actually we have a fast growing company. We have a company that is hiring a lot of people very fast. What keeps me up at night is making sure that I keep my team having a great experience at work. Macroeconomically speaking, what keeps me up at night is hopefully pin down that crisis in this potential recession, and hopefully find a way to live through it. For many of us, not only for Upflex, for all of us, figure out a way to live through it, figure out a way to create opportunities around it, and create a long-standing business for Upflex, and a long-standing opportunity for my teammates.
Okay, well, that's certainly a nice goal, and something that I'm sure we will see realized. And the final question, Christophe, is there one thing or one projection that you make of some? What do you think will have the most significant impact on the real estate industry in the next 5 years?
To me, it's something you know very, very well, Gavin. It's a transformation of the commercial landlords industry, by very, very far. It's going to be the most disrupted aspect of real estate, is how landlords of offices are going to transform themselves and adapt to the new needs and the new demand.
Yeah. And Christophe, you mean by that the need for them to become more of a blend between landlord and operator, as opposed to being, having very, very tight lines between the two in the past? Something I agree with you on, by the way, but that's presumably what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, I think we don't know. I think we don't know yet. I don't know if anybody has cracked that problem yet. Are the landlords going to be just more flexible in their leases, terminations and length? Are landlords going to start creating more structured environment, equipped, ready to go, ready to move in? Many of them are already doing it, by the way, right? Is it going to be landlords becoming operators themselves? I guess it's going to be a mix of many different things, right? But this market has to transform itself. It has to morph into something that is just responding to the demand, which has changed, and so it's going to be a very interesting market to be in.
Yeah. I agree. And, as I said to you, I think probably, maybe some of the most interesting times ever in real estate coming up over the next 5 to 10 years, a lot around what you've just been talking about. Christophe, Garnier, thank you very much for joining us today on PropTech. And it was a really interesting conversation. And with some luck, we can maybe do this again in the near future. Thank you very much for joining the show.
Thank you.
So that's a wrap for today's show. I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in to listen today, and hope to welcome you back to hear some of our future shows. As I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me, look at www.propnex.com, that's propnx.com, or drop me a line on gavinrmorgan@propnex.com. That's GAVINRMORGAN@propnex.com. I hope to hear from you soon, and thank you very much again for tuning in today. All the very best.